All right, guys. So welcome to another Scaling Brokerage podcast. We have Ernest Cooper as our special guest today, and he's going to be sharing more about his brokerage, his journey, some of the challenges he's faced through scaling, and how he was able to overcome them. So, Ernest, we're happy to have you today. If you don't mind, for the listeners, can you share a little bit more about your brokerage and, what got you to even start your brokerage in the first place?
You want me to go all the way back to the beginning?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Believe it or not, when I was in high school, I wanted to be a realtor. I envisioned myself driving that was back in 1984, 85. Imagine big hair, shoulder pads, the whole thing. Okay, dynasty. I envisioned myself driving a brown Mercedes station wagon with one of those big black box phones, okay? Pulling up to my wife at the, pulling up to her hair salon and taking her to lunch as a realtor. So when I went to school to get my degree in business, I minored in real estate, which back then was just simply taking your real estate course. I got distracted with another career opportunity called property management. And at the age of 32, I was managing 1,500 rental units in the Portland Metroplex.
Wow.
I was going to church. I was taking a special course at church called Building Your Field of Dreams, Awakening the War Within. And it was like, go towards anything that increases your excitement level. Go away from the things that don't, that do the opposite. And I did not like my boss. I could not stand him. I was not enjoying my job. And I remembered that I wanted to be a realtor back when I was in high school. I walked into our house, my boyfriend and I, he'd just moved in with me for 6 months. And I said, "Hey, honey, guess what? I'm going to be a realtor." And he said he nearly fainted. I was like, "Oh my God." And that was back in 1999. I was a licensed realtor working for Equity Group Residential Property, Equity, doesn't matter. I was the largest local firm as a realtor. Had my first transaction within 30 days. And fast forward, last year, I celebrated the 10-year anniversary of my small boutique firm, Cooper Realty.
Wow, that's incredible. So what made you decide to start your own boutique firm? What was kind of the root of that from, just working at another real estate brokerage?
Too many of my friends who were past clients, as you're in real estate, I believe, correct? Yes. So, right?
So I'm not an active real estate agent. So my partner works with a real estate brokerage. He owns his own real estate brokerage.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I'm sure you are well aware of the fact that those of us that work by referral only, our clients turn into our friends, sometimes very good friends, sometimes best friends. Yep. And since I've been doing this for 24 years, I have a lot of really good friends that were clients. Too many of them were telling me that we would work with you without a brokerage because it's you. It's not Remax. It's not Keller Williams. It's not Windermere. It's you. And finally, I just decided, okay, let's jump off the diving board. If it doesn't work, I can go back to, where I was. And I opened Cooper Realty out of my house. And I had a vision in that I wanted it to be small. I wanted my firm to be a brokerage of a family. And if you want to come to work at Cooper Realty and you don't fit in with the family because everyone is going to meet you and everyone has to like you, the applicant doesn't know it, then you're not going to come on board. But if it works and it all fits, it's great. And by family, I mean, without me getting involved as the managing principal broker now, my kids, as I call them, will reach out to each other and say, "Hey, I'm going to France for 10 days. Will you cover for me?" All of a sudden I see Rachel's in France. I'm like, "What the heck?" And I'm like, texting her going, who's covering for you? And she's like, "Josh." "Oh, okay." And up until recently, it was all guys and Rachel. And let me tell you, it was really the dynamic inside the firm was, we were all her big brother, all of us. And she was the little sister. And she would say jump and we'd say how high, basically. And then I terminated my long-term relationship with my assistant of 14 years and hired Rachel's cousin, Megan. So now there's almost an equal mix of guys and girls. And it's just, and we're all supportive of each other. We all have each other's backs. Um, when one of my brokers calls me and I'm with a client, I answer the phone. My husband calls, it goes to voicemail.
That's funny.
Did that
So-
answer your question?
Yeah. So I mean, so as a brokerage, so you said you just passed the anniversary of your brokerage. How many? So a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, they are, you know, continuing to scale their brokerage. They're looking to grow it. A lot of people too looking for the quality agents. So I know you mentioned family. Are you looking to grow your brokerage beyond where it's at now? Where do you see it in the next, 3 to 5 years?
Very, 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 very good question. I don't go and solicit other brokers to come to work for Cooper Realty. It's not part of my business plan. If I meet someone and I think they would be a great fit, I like, respect, and admire their business and personal values, then I'll take a person to lunch or to breakfast or to happy hour and have a conversation with them and just extend an ask. But that doesn't happen often. So I am content, and I'll tell you why, to maintain the status quo because I'm a month and a half away of starting my succession planning and going into, as I'm calling, taking some time off. And Rachel is going to take over my business when I'm not in town. And I'll fly back from the Palm Springs area for the clients that I want to work with. And for those that I may not have the time, we might be on a trip, then I'm going to give them to Rachel. And then we're going to do that for about 5 years until all the business has transitioned over to her and I'm truly retired.
That's incredible. Well,
Your folks that want to develop a succession plan, because I've been in it for about 3 years.
Wow, that's great. And so for anyone who is, looking to kind of get to where you're at, passing on everything to Rachel, you've been able to scale the business that way. What were some of the challenges you've faced in the process of, building your brokerage to where it's at now? And how did you overcome them?
I'm trying to think about obstacles. I don't mean to sound arrogant. I do not mean to sound arrogant. If there were obstacles, I didn't realize it. And I just continued blindly, I guess, with just, blinders on, and just, there was my goal and I just went for it. I can't think of any obstacles per se. I think if there were any, it would be making sure that my brokers were up to date to the second with the latest and greatest industry curveballs that were thrown our way, education, etc. That would be it. It's not a challenge, but it's something that is always one of the utmost in my mind, as to making sure that my people and myself are at the top of their game every day that they work. Especially with all the challenges that were thrown our way in August.
Yeah. So how have you been able to navigate around that from the challenges in August, would you say?
It wasn't, it was easy. I mean, the news came out about the lawsuit in November of last year, November 23. We were on a cruise on the Rhine River in the south of France, and it was international headlines. And I remember waking up going, what in the world? I immediately went, okay, this is just education. So starting back in December and January, that far ago, my brokers and myself, took every available class, Zoom call, everything that we could possibly do. I was contacting the Oregon Real Estate Agency and Steve Strode's office, who's the real estate commissioner. Just give me. So I also have contacts in the real estate world up in Seattle. So keep in mind that Seattle implemented this buyer agency agreement on effective January 1st, 2024. Okay. So when this started rolling out, I called my friends up there and said, "So how does this work?" And they're like, "You just get them to sign the contract. It's not that hard. You know, if they want to see a house, they have to sign the contract for that house, for that day, for there are all these different things." Like, oh, okay. And we started talking to our clients about it months ago, and it came down to this one simple thing that happened one day. A client of mine called me and said, "My husband, I want to see this house." I said, "Great. Remember that we talked about something was coming down the pike and I explained what it was?" She's like, "Oh yeah." I said, "I'm going to have to send that to you and I'm going to docu-sign it to you and you need to sign it or I can't show the house to you." She's like, "Oh, no problem." So she signed it. Husband did not. So they pull up in front of the house and I have the front door open and she gets out of the car and he was still in the car. Notice I'm not using names. And I said, "You, madam, can go in the house." And I looked at him and I said, "You can't." And she turned around and said, "I told you so." And she walked into the house. And so he got out of the car, messing with his phone, pulled up the DocuSign, signed it, and I said, "Welcome home." So yeah, it's a nothing. It's absolutely
Yeah, I feel like as long as the agents are fully trained on, getting the buyer broker agreement signed, everything's been the same. It was nothing but just a huge distraction, I feel like, for a long time. Because there was a lot of brokers we talked to, and a lot of people we've had podcasts with where they were, really, really worried about it. And then we have brokers who are in Canada. They're like, this has always been a thing for us. Like, why are you guys freaking out about it? So yeah, that's
right.
great. But yeah, okay, great. So I do have one question that I want to leave the listeners with where so a lot of the listeners are either just getting started with a brokerage or they're looking to eventually retire, where they can go on vacation. Basically what you're planning on doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the end goal, right? So if you were to start over today, rebuilding your real estate brokerage from scratch, what would be the best advice you'd give yourself as a new business owner?
The only thing that I would do different is I would not have worked out of my house for the first year and a half to 2 years. No, it might not have been awkward for my clients to meet me at Starbucks, a new client to meet me at an escrow company to use their conference room, but it felt awkward to me. I would have, starting out 11 years ago, I would have immediately opened my office. So that's what I would have done. It made me feel better. It made me feel more professional. It actually gave me a place to go to work instead of the office in my house next to the master bedroom. All of that stuff. Just opening the office.
Gotcha. Okay. So making sure that you're separating your home from your work.
Right.
Wonderful.
And also,
Yeah.
it was more professional. I mean, I rented an office in a building that has an espresso bar upstairs, conference facilities, kitchen. I mean, conference room, if I didn't already say it. So it looks good.
Absolutely. That's great. Awesome. All right. Well, Ernest, I really appreciate you hopping on here and sharing your journey, where you're heading. And yeah, and for any of the listeners who are getting started, that's definitely some good insight for them. And I appreciate you sharing everything as far as like how the NAR didn't affect you. I think a lot of brokerage owners need to hear that as well. And hopefully they are able to get some insights from that. So for anyone who's listening, if they wanted to learn more about your brokerage or, find you on social media, what's the best way for them to find you?
Gosh, I can give you all my contact information here, or they can Google it. But it's Cooper Realty LLC in Portland, Oregon. My email address is Ernest, and it's not like earnest money. It's ERNEST at CooperRealtyLLC.net. And I'll give you my phone number twice. It's 503-515-8426. Once again, 503-515-8426. And for any of you that are listening, I am simply a phone call, an email, or a text away. I'm happy to share anything that I can with you. I will hold nothing back, and I'm happy to go to coffee or lunch with you.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you having you on here, Ernest. And for anyone who's listening, this is a great call for especially anyone who's looking to eventually get to where Ernest is at, and streamline the process, have someone that you can fully trust on your team, and travel the world. So, Ernest, I appreciate you hopping on today, and hopefully we'll have you on the podcast in the future when you're back in town.
Sure, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernest. Take care.